Hello, people from the internet. I'm Chidarengan, but you can call me Shida. I wanted to do a harder challenge run this time, so today we're gonna find out if it's possible to beat Castlevania Symphony of the Night while naked. I mean, without equipping anything, and the answer is yes, of course. Please don't close the video. The real question here is, what is it like to beat the game in these conditions? But I don't think that would be a good title for the video. Therefore, here are the rules. I cannot equip anything in any of these equipment slots. These include healing items like potions. Relics are allowed, as I don't really think they should be considered equipment, and the same for sub-weapons. I can equip items if they are considered mandatory, but only for the moment they are necessary. The gold and silver ring, for instance, are mandatory. Glitches are allowed, although they will not be used that much this time. This is mostly because I just can't play this game without using glitches anymore. For extra difficulty, I play the game on the lucky mode, which makes all my stats terrible besides luck. Now let's jump into it. I fight Dracula normally here using Richter, beat him quickly with the Hydrostorm, and start playing as Alucard. I immediately realized that my stats sucks, with some of them being on 0. I strip myself naked and try to cast a spell, and nope, not happening. That's because I don't have enough MP. You can see me tiptoeing my way because of how scared I am of the enemies, the one in question being the Warg. And that's with reason. Look how long it took for me to beat him. The main reason I'm scared is because if you die here, since you didn't save, you have to do the Richter section again, which is kinda annoying. I managed to kill this one, and try to do the same with the second one. And here my weakness is put on display, as I get thrown out of the room and stay with 5 HP, and die less than 10 seconds later. I replayed the Richter section, and decided this time that I was going to jump over them. Basically, around the time they start to growl is when you should jump. However, eventually the zombies show up, and jumping over the wargs in these conditions is pretty hard. I managed to level up, but I accidentally touch a zombie and get thrown again, and die soon after. Being launched like this is related to the constitution stat, and that's why this usually doesn't happen. Another reason why this is annoying is that I have to put the lucky mode code again, every time. And in case you're wondering, the quick save option is only available once you already have a save. Kill Dracula as Richter. Is Jick short for Richter as well? Anyway, my good friend B1 Kinos on chat told me that you need 5 MP to cast spells. Therefore, we need to gain 2 levels. We jump over the wargs and farm the zombies for experience. Another option I have to mention was to be purposely thrown to the right side instead of the left. But it's risky, since it would leave you with very little HP, and there is 2 corridors with wargs. Now we are able to cast Summon Spirit. And like this, we kill the enemies from now on, since it's very dangerous to be on close range. The Summon Spirit spell is going to be useful in most runs, so here's how you do it. You press left, then right, or right, then left. After that you press up, down, and attack. It's super consistent. It's funny how even with 0 intelligence, spells still deal plenty of damage. I noticed here that I take a little long to break this thing here. I wonder if it's because I'm too weak or because I'm using fists. I keep making progress and finally save, so now I don't have to worry too much about dying. The spell easily defeats enemies up until I reach the boss. It's not often that these guys give me trouble, and I can take some damage. My first strategy was to stay on the left, so Slugger can't get you, but if you fall, you're pretty much dead. I also died once in the other corner. You do not want to be here, unless there is only Slugger without his spear. I farmed a little to get the Hellfire spell. It's hard to say how much worth it is, because I can't see the damage I deal yet. But since Slugger goes up when damaged, I would say it's better to save your MP. Use the knives to bait Gaibon to grab Slugger and summon Spirit while they are up. Repeat until he dies, and then spam knives on Gaibon. I went ahead and got the Holy Water, which can deal a lot of damage. I also got the Spiritual Orb, almost died, gave up on that route and got back into the right one. How humiliating. On the way, I got the stopwatch. Be careful against the Diplocephalus, because its fireballs can track you. Keep your distance and summon spirits. The stone rose is also a bit problematic, because the spirits can track the little stones it spits instead of the actual enemy. But you can teleport with the Hellfire spell. With no reason to take the down route in Outer Wall, I just go to the boss. I was a bit scared, even with time stop, because I deal very little damage, but here is how it turned out. My god! I do no damage. So close! Yeah, I beat it in the last second. Hellfire is strong. I keep proceeding with Summon Spirit and get the Soul of Wolf, so I can go to Auroch's quarters. As usual, jump, turn into Wolf, turn back into Alucard, hold down and spam jump. From now on, I'm gonna call this the doggy jump glitch. I rush into the Colosseum. The reason for that is gonna make sense soon. I tried to face the werewolf and the minotaur, and it was much harder than expected. You have to get a very good start. And remember that turning into wolf will give you some iframes. You can try another sub-weapon, but there are reasons why I decided to keep the watch. One of them being that it's hard to come across one. I farmed a little in this corridor to get a better chance and tried again. And after a few tries, I gave up, got a holy water and forgot to farm hearts for it. And then this happened. Oh, accidentally. Yeah, I pretty much failed already. Okay, maybe not. Oh. Oh my god, I won! You have guys. This is like 10th try or something. I immediately got to the form of mist. The reason it's so important is that it is necessary to get the form of bat, which is needed in order to get a very important relic for us. However, to do so, we need to use the doggy jump glitch again in the long library. It's a lot easier to get the book into position if you can stop time. The Corpus Witch here can do a lot of damage to you, so be careful. Now we have to face the Lesser Demon. I use the stopwatch and try to hit him with Hellfire, but he takes flight to avoid it. My fists, as usual, deal very little damage, and the spirit also doesn't deal very much. And with these combinations of factors, I'm having trouble in one of the easiest bosses. I give it another try. He keeps summoning, and I realize that he shoots his fireball when I'm far away. We go back to the previous dance, and I pretty much run out of mana, which makes me go for punching sometimes. And this gets me killed. I should mention that one of my options is the Tetra Spirit, but I suck at doing that spell in particular, so I often forget of it. Another try, and for some reason this time he decides not to fly, and the battle takes place in the ground. I manage to get a good Hellfire in, and after a second one, the battle is finished. I get the form of bat, and now the run should get a lot easier. Not only I can use Wing Smash, which will make traversal a lot easier, I can get to the Fairy Familiar, which means that I can use healing potions without equipping them. Pretty much all my money will be used for potions, so I do not mind letting her by my side to gain levels, even if she ends up using potions when I do not want to. If you think the Familiar should count as an item, women are not items. Good luck arguing against that. I buy some potions, the Jewel of Open, and go to face the Succubus. I start the fight by spamming the Summon Spirit spell. Eventually she multiplies and my best option is to use the Wing Smash to hit them all. But you gotta do it quickly, otherwise she's gonna summon a barrage of spheres to hit you.
Becky, let me wing smash.
I quickly run out of MP and realize I should probably save it for wing smash only. The fairy tries to help, but at this level she's kinda slow to heal, and I die. This is very interesting to me, since the Succubus is usually a complete pushover. I didn't even remember her moves. Having the double jump would make the battle a lot easier, and same goes for decent sub-weapons. But I decided to keep trying. One thing I have yet to mention is that your fists can actually do plenty of damage when you crit occasionally, thanks to your high luck stat. So if you think you have a safe opportunity to hit with your fists, do so. Here I realize a weird bug in the game. For some reason, the fairy vanishes if you die, and the only way to get her back is to activate another familiar card, and then activate her again. But I cannot do that now since she's the only one I have. So for now, the fairy will be at her break. Maybe she's mad at me cause I died, I don't know. Every time you hit the Succubus, she will get a little higher, making it harder for you to keep attacking her. But sometimes, she randomly flies lower. She hugged me, I got a nosebleed and died. I start again and get a critical dealing 69 damage. Nice. How fitting. Another one at 109. Less fitting, but I will take it. I have a good fight, but I failed to use the wing smash once and end up dying. The wing smash works kind of like a spell in which you have to press buttons in an order, and doing so under pressure makes it a little harder, as you can see on my next attempt. Did you know that you can get a different game over voice? I certainly did not.
Wander the darkness with me, love.
Again, my good friend Juan on chat, follow me on Twitch by the way, suggested I should use Tetra Spirit. It costs plenty of MP. It's a little hard to execute, but it deals plenty of damage. But I again failed in Wing Smash and die. On my next attempt, I get a Lucky Soul Steal by trying to use Tetra Spirit, and it's almost as if I forgot how to do the Wing Smash. I die again. And then finally, by just not playing like an idiot, I managed to beat her. One thing that it's worth mentioning that happens during this battle is that when attacking with your fists, if you get very close you can hit multiple times. Anyway, don't forget the gold ring before you leave. I had a lot of fun letting her solo me and decided that I should go straight to another, usually easy boss, the Skilla. First you have to defeat her snake, it's not very hard, then you actually have to face the boss. I immediately wing smash thinking I can be safe behind her, but I get completely destroyed instead. The main reason I'm fighting optional bosses is so I can get experience. I die again making the same mistake because I didn't think one snake was enough to kill me. I wonder if I can kill the first snake and then go back and save. I wait for my MP to restore, go over the pillar in an attempt to use the Hellfire spell, end up casting the 99% of the time useless Dark Metamorphosis, and somehow end up behind the boss back again. Miraculously, I cast the Hellfire spell, killing the snakes. I escape and then hit her again with a critical, finishing the battle. I won't be mentioning here, but every so often I explore the castle a bit to get these items that raise your HP and hearts. On the entrance, I open that cryptic secret room that requires you to enter as a wolf and leave as a bat, and get a life apple. It's not necessary to get it right now, because you really don't want to use this item in anything but the final boss. The life apple is automatically used if you die while the fairy is alongside you. But it's also kinda rare, so you don't want that to happen accidentally. I also get the power of the wolf, which will be pretty useful. And get the bat familiar to be able to get the fairy back. I go up to the clock and get the gravity boots. And another apple. Now I decided to face the hippogriff on the chapel. I accidentally throw myself in the corridor with a lot of spikes, which is very convenient for me to explain that I will not be able to do the glitch in this run, since I cannot equip potions. The hippogriff is a very easy boss, even in this run, so there is not much to talk about. Maybe if I came here earlier before I went to the Colosseum. Anyway, I proceed to the keep and get the power of the mist, and the leap stone. I went through this door to face the clock tower boss. The Karasuman is usually a pushover, but as usual, in this run, I deal close to no damage on each attack. He kicks my ass, but I cast some lucky spells. I'm able to figure out his pattern and realize something about this boss. Eventually, after you beat him a little, he starts to get thrown by your attacks, regardless of the damage, so you can stun lock him against the wall, and that's how I defeated him. I got back to Auroch's quarters to face, well, Auroch's. He guards the Bat Raider, which is technically a mandatory item. As usual, I tried to start the fight with the Hellfire spell, but he managed to avoid it. This boss can be pretty tricky. He summons a lot of stuff, and even my spells can't deal much damage. I tried to use the Mist Form to avoid attacks, and while it works, my MP is limited. I noticed that I should try to get some crits and preserve my MP to the second phase. When he transforms, punching him becomes really hard. He will get faster the more damage he takes. However, he starts the fight very slowly, so I try to take the time to heal my MP. Whenever I feel cornered, I either use the Wing Smash or do a double jump and kick over him. This is a long battle, be patient and abuse the fairy for healing. Hellfire is also decent against him if you manage to hit. The Soul Steal spell is also useful if you need healing, even though it doesn't deal significant damage. You can also use the high jump to bait him into shooting towards the ceiling. I end up dying. The fairy tries to resurrect me, but I prefer to just quit, so to not spend the rare life apple. I give it another try. Sometimes I use the spells to avoid being overwhelmed by his summons, and with some lucky crits, I actually do the first phase without taking damage. I saved the holy water for this part, and although they only deal 1 damage, they hit multiple times, which is not completely terrible. Then I just keep using Wing Smash and pretty much just keep doing the same strategy as before, until eventually I won. I got the Echo of Batch and went to the Colosseum again. With the Wing Smash, farming for money is easy, and because you kill so many enemies, the fairy gains a few levels as well. Every time you kill 99 enemies, the familiar gets 1 level. The information online on how the levels affect the familiars, especially the fairy, is very scarce. But it seems that more levels make it so she can use high potions, and she will also heal you faster. I end the stream with a little less than 3 hours of gameplay, not counting deaths, on level 25, and the fairy on level 7. And then I farm off screen using this method. Time goes by while I farm, and when I realize, I'm now with more than 5 hours. I only gained 1 level because the higher a level, the less experience the enemies give you. There is also this ridiculous amount of gold, and the fairy is now on level 70. In this level, she should be able to use high potions, so I'm gonna buy 99 of them. And not a single potion. I don't want her to have the option to use a weaker healing. In the discussion about Alucard being overpowered, I don't often see being mentioned how broken potions are in this game, especially with the fairy. We are not invincible though, because it takes a few seconds for the fairy to heal you once she sees you are at low HP, and the healing itself also doesn't happen immediately. Regardless, it's still an immense help. One weird thing that happened on stream is that by jumping on the ferryman boat, I completely froze the game. I had to restart the app. I go to the catacombs to face the Cerberus. My stuff actually hurts him, but I still take a lot of damage, which is not a problem with the little waifu by my side. One weird thing that happened was this odd instance of the damage showing up in blue. Damage in this game usually shows up in red and yellow, sometimes green and white for criticals. I wonder what that is all about, especially the blue one. There's nothing else to talk about this boss, he goes down easily. I explored the dark area filled to the brim with spikes, and get to the spike breaker. Usually I use the library card here, but I cannot equip it, so I decide to face the boss, even though he's optional, just to see how hard it is. I go back through the spike room as a batch, since it's technically still optional to use the spike breaker here, and I start my fight with the Granfaloon by using Hellfire. After that, he goes high and it's not possible to hit him with the spell at a close range. I bring the Rebound Stone, Did you know that this was the name of this sub-weapon? Anyway, it's decent against it. You want to stay in this platform casting spells. It's not necessary to completely destroy his shell, so don't do it. Otherwise, it will start to shoot lasers at you. Alternatively, just keep using Wing Smash until he dies. Shouldn't be too hard. I get the Murmiju for no reason. It's strong against Holy, meaning it's useful if you want to kill Richter. Which is like, not cool bro. With the Spike Breaker, I get the Silver Ring, and open the passage in the Clock Tower. The next boss is Maria, and pretty much all my options suck against her. Thankfully, I managed to stunlock her a little. Hope for criticals and try not to be damaged consecutively very often, and this should be enough. Get the Holy Glasses and go face Richter. And by face Richter, I mean use the Holy Cross to immediately win the battle. On a side note, I checked what happens if you remove the glasses during the battle. The shaft sphere just vanishes. Did you know about that? My game crashed again suddenly. I just did it again and went to the next castle. I wonder if the crash had anything to do with me removing the glasses. I decided to face the Medusa first. I bought some hammers with the Master Librarian. Despite what it looks like, they don't really help. The time it takes for me to get out by myself is about the same as the fairy action to hit me with the hammer. Your best option here is the Hellfire spell, but if you decide to be cheesy, spamming punches with her in the corner also work. And with a few crits, she's finished. Immediately after that, I go face the Darkwing Bat. I try to spam the Tetra Spirit spell first, but it isn't really working. The weaker version is more consistent, so that's what I stick to, and it will be enough to finish it. The next in line is the creature. I start with the Holy Cross, and after that, I get a little lost. It's somewhat hard to avoid his attacks, and it's also hard to hit him with the spells, because he doesn't stay in place. I managed to hit him once with Hellfire, a few times with Summon Spirit, some Wing Smashes, and even without a consistent strategy, with the Fairy healing me a couple of times, I ended up winning anyway. This goes to show how much of a difference she makes in the run, seeing how deadly this was at the start. And speaking of deadly, now it's time for us to face Death. I cast some Soul Steel by accident. Its scythes are pretty overwhelming, but we can turn into mist. Death has some mini phases before it transforms. I end up dying when it goes to the next one. Again, I do not resurrect because I'm saving the apples for later. I try to get in the same platform as Death and cast Hellfire, but I fail, mainly because it gets knocked back when I hit it. I realize that it takes a lot of damage from my fists, which makes me skip one of its phases. So after I died, I tried again with a more punchy-happy approach. Try your best to skip this phase because I don't even know what you have to do against it. I noticed that, weirdly, Death, of all beings, doesn't inflict contact damage if you touch it, which makes punching a little safer. I was having trouble with the red scythes. Try to get away from them with the form of mist. And with a few more blows, this phase will end soon. For its final phase, you want to pass through it, get behind and punch. Just be careful when he turns to you, because the scythes can inflict contact damage. This boss is on the higher end of difficulty, but it's nothing undoable. And finally, we go face Ekmodan II. He is not a complete pushover this time. Getting close for Hellfire puts you in risk of being grabbed and thrown. I give it another try and mostly play keep away, until I accidentally cast Hellfire and just decided to go for it. I get into a difficult spot, but I use the mist to get out of there, and I think I was about to die when I managed to hit him with another Hellfire and finish the battle. Now I have all I need to go face Dracula. If you are enjoying the video so far, leave a like, share and subscribe. All the good stuff. And follow me on Twitch if you want to see me do these challenges live. My next enemy is Shaft, and none of my spells do damage. And after a lot of trial and error, and I mean a lot of trial and error, I figured out that the only sub-weapon worth bringing is the Holy Cross. For attacking in general, my best option is the Bat, and occasionally punching if he gets in a good position. All of his attacks are hard to dodge. For the lightning, I try to use the iframes on the high jump, and for the other attacks, I just pray I don't get hit. My only means of defense is surviving for long enough for the fairy to heal me. Sometimes I manage to kill him and go face Dracula, but not in a way that wasn't super long and boring. I will now kinda cover Dracula and Shaft at the same time, since they are basically the same boss. Fighting Dracula legit is always hard for me. There's a lot of things happening on screen, which is distracting, and sometimes, for some reason, I feel like dodging his hands is super difficult. He has this move in which he squishes another boss and drains his blood. Oh, and by the way, I asked the nice people on the Long Library Discord server, and I was told that this ability does not in fact heal him, and I just wanted to tell you guys. The more you know. When he attacks with his heads, you need to turn into mist. Thankfully, when you die and the fairy brings you back, you restore mana, so you can stay in the mist form for longer. But even with 2 apples, I still died. After a few tries, I realized that I probably should farm levels, so I went to face the bosses I had left. I start my battle with the fake trio. The Holy Cross is a great start against them. I try to hit Trevor with Hellfire, and I accidentally cast Soul Steal, which works very well. My fists, at this point, also deal significant damage, but I end up with very little MP and try to figure out another strategy. I hit Grant once in the ceiling, or the ground, and it's already enough for him to die. Each enemy here counts as a boss and can give you plenty of experience. I'm unsure if Cypher starts casting flames only if Grant dies, but she starts doing that and it makes easier for me to get on Trevor. And with a few punches, I managed to take him out as well. Cypher can resurrect Trevor as a zombie. I don't know why she can't do the same with Grant, but regardless, because of the Heart of Vlad, the relic you get for beating the Medusa, this zombie cannot deal damage to you. I pretty much won this battle already, so I decided to mess with the zombie a bit. And Cypher uses another new move that is hard to avoid. The zombie Trevor does not count as a kill, and nor does he give you experience. I thought I should mention that. I give Cypher a back massage so bad that she dies. And I go face the next boss. I hope you bring something to cover your nose, because Beelzebub is next, and he stinks. His little flies can poison you, but if you have anti-venom, the fairy can heal you. I jumped and used the Holy Cross. I should probably have turned myself into bat to stay closer to his face. Similarly to another disgusting boss, the Grenfalloon, hitting him anywhere but his weak spot, his head and chest in this case, will only make the fight harder, as he summons more flies to annoy you. The spirits aren't great here either, because they can follow the flies instead of the boss, so just wing smash back and forth for an easy win. Before we go to the next boss, I wanted to show you something. I went this way to face death before. This wooden bridge should not exist in this castle. So, that's another weird glitch happening. I start the battle with the doppelganger. My hits do some decent damage, but stun locking him is impossible, because he has knockback. And also, when cornered, he can turn into bat. And wing smash you, for a change. One of his attacks can poison you, making your damage even more pitiful. I got some lucky crits, but what really made this fight possible was the fairy again. The spells pretty much cannot hit him, because he turns into mist. I don't really know the best way to face him, but we decided to trivialize the game a while ago, and as long as he doesn't kill you too quickly, the fairy will heal you and everything will be alright. There is only one optional boss left, but since he's a super boss, it's pointless to face him before I face Dracula. I farm a little on the Guardians, they give you plenty of experience on each kill. You just have to be super careful. I decided to face the boss again, now at level 46. This is how strong I had to be in order to use the Holy Cross twice. The strategy for Shaft is the same, in the sense that I pretty much don't have one. When he stays still for his lightning attack, if he's close to the ground, punch him, trying to get some crits. And if possible, I use the high jump to avoid the lightning. And for the other moves, I just pray that I can dodge. Besides punching, the main method of attack continues to be the bat. Try not to accidentally use the Holy Cross here, since we are saving it for Dracula. One of the best things about leveling up is when my HP is yellow, the range in which the fairy heals me, I still got about 100 HP, which gives you a good time to get healed if you get hit again. With all that, Shaft goes down a lot easier than the last few tries. I do not skip the cutscene with Dracula so my MP can be restored. My punches deal a lot more damage on Dracula now, and as soon as possible I use all the crosses I got. When he goes behind, in the background, and attacks, it's not hard to avoid, just get out of the way. When he comes back, attack as he's coming down. He's going to attack you with his 3 heads. So turn into mist. I don't always do this because I'm stubborn, but if you can get a few soul steals in it, it would help a lot. Besides that, all spells are pretty much pointless. When he attacks with his arms, it's a little awkward to get out of the way. I can only do it sometimes. You have to get a few for it. I'm pretty unlucky in this battle, in regards to critical hits. I actually thought Dracula was immune to it, but after a few rounds, I get some serious crits against him. And after just a few more hits, he's done for. I didn't even need to use a life apple. I guess I overprepared a bit. So we already got our answer for the question. Can you beat Castlevania Symphony of the Night while naked? The answer is yes, but there is one more thing left to do. You see, this game has a super boss. His name is Galamoth. He has 12,000 HP, 2,000 more than Dracula, and great stats over the board. I don't want to face him every single time I do a challenge run, but since this run is one of the hardest ones I will be doing, I figured that if I beat him now, I would not have to beat him on easier runs, because it would be redundant. He's a true final boss and the main reason why I saved my apples. I start the fight with the Holy Cross and each hit deals 1 damage. In less than a minute, I die once against him. Although I can try to farm crits, hitting his legs is pretty hard. Truth is, he has a weak spot on his head, so I keep trying to hit it with Wing Smash. I die and give it another try. I start again with the Holy Cross, aiming for his face, easier said than done. And then I try to focus on using the batch. When he tries to hit you with the blue lightning wave thingy, you can avoid it by either jumping or doing Wing Smash. And for his black balls, turn into mist. He will shoot 8 times. Keeping that in mind can be useful. The main problem with this strat is that eventually you will run out of MP for mist and batch form. Dying will restore you, but you only have so many apples. And I died. I decided to try again, using the knives this time. If you are close enough, you can even stun lock him. I did some math, and with the amount of knives I have, they will only be doing 4,000 damage in total. And seeing how I was doing about 64 damage with Wing Smash, I would need to hit him over 120 times. Which is not easy. Both times I died with no mana, so I knew I needed a better strategy. I finished the stream for the day, and while offline, I made Alucard hit the gym. I farmed on the Guardians until I get to level 63. The Fairy was pretty close to max level after that, so I farmed on the entrance to get the very few last levels. And I found out that the Harpies on Clock Tower can drop life apples, with about 1% chance. So I farmed there. The method I used for farming levels was the following. Turn into Bat, using the Holy Cross between them. And then I alternate between Wolf and Bat, according to the situation. You mostly want to stay as Wolf because it deals more damage, and then when you're out of MP, save. This spot here on Clock Tower is the one I found to be the best place to farm life apples. And here I farmed for fairy levels. There is probably a better place, but this honestly did not take very long. There are 2 more life apples you can find in this game. One in the room in the clock tower where you have to move the gears until they make a click sound. Repeat for each gear in both rooms. This door will open and you will be able to get the life apple. The other apple is in the reverse catacombs, where you open with the demon familiar, behind a breakable wall. So I found out, again with the people in the Long Library Discord server, there is a very easy way to beat Galamoth. You start the fight by immediately wing smashing through this platform. You need to start punching his face. The knives make it easier for you to get into position. And now he is stun locked. He can get out, but I think you have to screw up somehow. But if everything works out, he goes down nice and easy. But killing the super boss like this kinda beats the purpose. So I'm gonna do it another way. I'm still gonna be using the knives, but when I finish with them, I'm gonna go back to attacking with the bat form. Depending on where you are in the arena, his balls cannot reach you. This is useful for when you run out of MP. I noticed that my Wing Smash barely deals more damage than before, but my HP is a lot higher. When in this corner, you can use the high jump to avoid this lightning attack. As soon as I run out of MP, I die and the fairy heals me. One thing that you can try to do is jump on his head, but it's risky, as you can see here. I get some lucky criticals and die again. The battle goes on, and when my MP is almost over, I die again. And I finish the battle. Thankfully, only 3 of my apples were used, which is nice, because I only had 19. That's it for today, guys. That was a long one. If you stayed this long, type live in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. I have another challenge run video if you wanna watch it. I want to see you here again next time. Have a spooky night, and goodbye. But before I go, this is also my dog.